Hello builders, I am Laszlo and today I'm back with a new video on how to deploy your serverless app with AWS SAM pipelines and GitHub Actions. In this video I'm going to show you how to create a deployment pipeline for your AWS SAM serverless application, and we're going to use the SAM pipeline feature and GitHub Actions. So whenever you do a git push to a specific branch, the application will run the pipeline, will perform the tests, it will run integration tests, all kinds of tests, and also deploy the application to the dev stage and also to the production stage. So let's see a little bit the agenda. First of all, we are going to create a small little SAM app with SAM init. Then we're going to initialize and bootstrap the deployment pipeline with SAM pipelines. Then we're going to show how whenever you do a push to the main branch, the app will get deployed on the dev and prod stages, and it will also run the tests. Then we are going to see how we can create a feature deployment on a push to a feature branch. So we're going to create a feature branch, and whenever we do a push to that, a completely new infrastructure stack is going to be created for that particular feature. And after we are happy with that feature, we can merge it into the main branch, and we're going to execute a delete feature branch, and that feature branch and the infrastructure stack associated with that will get deleted. So that's the agenda. We're going to start with this in a minute. Before that, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. So here I am in Visual Studio Code. I have this folder, SAM pipelines, GitHub Actions. Here I'm going to run SAM init to create a small SAM application. And I'm going to use the AWS Quick Starts, a Hello World example. And I'm going to choose Node.js 16 here, zip, and a Hello World example. I will just say no to these questions about monitoring, and I'm going to call this my SAM app. And now it generates for me a small sample Hello World application. And what I will want to do, I want to deploy this using the pipeline and GitHub Actions. So let's see my project. Here it is, my SAM app. It has a template YAML with a simple serverless function and an API attached. I also have a Lambda function which returns Hello World. So it's pretty simple. Now we want to set up the pipeline. And for that, I'm going to change directory to my SAM app. And I have to run SAM pipeline init and then also bootstrap. And when I do that, it will run some quick starts. I can choose here AWS Quick Start pipeline templates, and here you can choose whatever tool you are using. I want to use GitHub Actions, so I'm going to choose 3, but you could use other tools like Jenkins, GitLab, Bitbucket, or Code Pipeline. So let's choose GitHub, and then it asks me to set up a stage because I don't have any stage right now. So I will answer yes, and my first stage will be the dev stage, and I'm going to call this dev. And then it asks me which local profile I want to use for deployment, and I'm going to use 7 hello demo. This is linked to a specific AWS account, and it already detected it. Which region I want to use? I'm going to use US West 2 for this. And then it asks me what user permissions provider I want to use. Do I want to use an IAM user or OpenID Connect? And in this case, I'm going to use OpenID Connect. And what it will do, it will set me up with an identity provider in my AWS account. And that identity provider will work together with a role, and it will be able to assume that role to connect to my AWS account. So I won't have to use any AWS secret key or things like that. I don't have to put them into my application. Basically, I'm going to use just roles for the interaction with AWS. So let's choose 2. And here it already offers me some default things. Like you would have to paste this HTTPS token actions GitHub user content.com. But if you press enter, it will use the default value, which is that one, and it's correct. Then we have to enter the client ID or the audience, and this should be sts.amazonaws.com, and it also already knows about this because this is standard for such a setup with GitHub Actions. So just press enter to use the default value, and then I have to provide a GitHub organization or the username. So this is my GitHub username, and it will be Majestic.cloud. And then it will also ask me for the GitHub repository. And the repository will be SAM GitHub Actions. This is a repository I've already set up, so I will be able to use it right away. And when it creates the role, which will interact with AWS, it will create it in such a way that only GitHub, the Majestic.cloud, Majestic.cloud user and this particular repository can assume that role. So let's press enter, and then what branch will be the one that will be used for deployments. And here we are going to use the main branch, and I'm just it offers it by default, so I'm just going to press enter. Here it asks for me to provide the pipeline execution role RM if I already created it. If not, it will create it for me, and that's fine. I'm just going to press enter and it will create the role for me. Also the CloudFormation execution role, just press enter and it will create it for you. Then a bucket that will be used for deployments of the Lambda function, just press enter and it will create it for you. Then if you use an image for the Lambda function, here you press yes, otherwise press no, like I'm doing it. And then it provides me a summary. I just press enter and press yes to proceed with the creation of the resources for this. So what will happen in the background is that it will go and create a CloudFormation stack for me with the necessary roles and identity provider and things like that. So that takes a little bit of time. I will pause the video for a bit and then come back and show you what it has created. So it has finished creating that stack. Let me show it to you. So I'm going to go to the CloudFormation console in AWS. And there I should have a stack. You see this one here. If we look at it, it has created for us some artifacts buckets, some execution role, OIDC provider. So let's look at those. I'm going to open IAM. And here, if you look at it, it has created an identity provider, these tokens, actions, GitHub user content.com. And this is our identity provider, which will be able to use the roles that are also created for us. So if we look here, we have 2 roles, the pipeline execution role and the CloudFormation execution role. If we look at the pipeline execution role, we see it has some permissions here, but more importantly, it has a trust relationship with this OIDC provider, and this provider can assume the role with web identity. And you see here we have under which conditions this can happen, and only if the repo is Majestic Cloud SAM GitHub Actions, and branch is main actually. So let's go back to the pipeline creation because it's not yet ready. It asks us now, do you want to go through stage setup process now? If you choose no, you can still reference bootstrapped resources. So we need to create another stage. And let's do that. This is going to be our prod stage. So the stage will be prod. And it asks us again for the profile. I'm going to use the same profile. You could use another one. So it's recommended that you use different AWS accounts for your different stages. In this case, I'm going to use the same AWS account, but you could use another one. So you could have your prod in one specific account and your dev in another AWS account. So let's use the same account, the same region. You could use different regions for your different stages. And then again, I'm going to let it to create the roles for me and the buckets. And here I'm going to choose no and confirm. And it will create for me this time another stack. This one is going to be for the prod stage. If I'm going to refresh, you see this now it's creating the prod pipeline resources. So these are the resources needed for our pipeline. So let's wait until this finishes and continue after that. So it has finished also the prod stage. It asks us which branch will be used for production deployments. We're going to use the same branch, but you could use the another branch. So it offers us by default main. I'm going to accept that. It asks us what is the template file path, and by default that is template.yaml. I'm going to confirm it with an enter. Then it asks us for the stage 1 configuration name. The stage 1 will be the dev stage, and the stack name will be my app dev, and then the second stage will be the prod, and in this case the stack name will be my SAM app prod. These will be the stack names that when it will create the stack for me. So now my my settings are complete. What I have to do is check this into Git and do a push. So let's just grab here this code to add this to a Git repository. First I have to run git init and then git add everything. Let's do a git commit. It will be initial commit. Okay, and then let's add the origin and do the steps that are there. Git branch main and git push okay, and now it has pushed to GitHub. And let's see if we go back to GitHub. Let's see actions, and you see we have the initial commit and the workflows have begun running. Here's the code for our application. We also have the GitHub pipeline, GitHub Actions pipeline, which was created for us automatically, and it has different steps involved here. Let's go back here, and if we look at that, you see we have the test, then we have build and package, deploy to testing, run integration test, and then deploy to production. Of course, you can modify the GitHub Actions pipeline and actually introduce here somewhere manual checks and so on. But right now we don't have that implemented. Also, integration tests are not implemented. If we look at the code and look at the pipeline, and let's see where it is: delete feature, build and package, deploy testing, integration tests. You see at this step here, we don't have any integration tests running. Usually you would put your integration tests here, and then those would run, and only if they are successful, the next step would be executed. So if we go back, let's see, let's wait a little bit until this finishes. So now it's running build. It has successfully run build and package, and now it's deploying to testing. And if we go to CloudFormation and refresh here, you see the My SAM app dev stage has create in progress. Once this will be successful, it will continue and do the next steps. But actually I have here an error. Let's look at what that error is. Actually, I think this is let's go back here, and you see we have 2 initial commits. I'm not sure why it triggered twice when I run the push, but we have another one here that is working as expected. We have build and package, deploy to testing, integration test, deploy to prod. All these steps are working as expected. If I go here and I refresh, you see I have my SAM app, the dev stage, and also the prod stage, and soon enough it should finish. And you see it has finished this one, so it has deployed to prod. If we look at it, let's open this. Let's see what resources it has deployed. So we have the hello world function, we have the serverless REST API. Let's open that, and let's just go here to the stages, to prod, open this URL, and here we should have a hello path. Let's add hello after that, and you see it returns the message hello world. Now, okay, let's go back to our code. Let me go back here, open the app.js, and let's modify the return here, the message hello world from SAM pipelines and GitHub actions. And let's change text, git push, and once I do this, it should trigger another execution of the GitHub Actions pipeline. So you see already changed text, and I'm going to wait a bit until this runs successfully, and I'm going to resume the video after that. So it has now successfully run. It deployed all the way into production. And if I go back here to this endpoint on API Gateway and I refresh the page, I get hello world from SAM pipelines and GitHub Actions. So as you can see, the changes were deployed successfully with GitHub Actions. Now what I want to do here, I want to create a feature branch, and that will trigger this build and deploy feature step here in the pipeline. So let's go back here and let's just create a Git branch, and it has to start with feature. This is how the pipeline is built, and it will be feature status. Let's say git checkout feature status, and then here I'm going to change this status successful, for example, and let's now git commit change text again, change status text, and then git push feature status. This. Okay, and now if I go back, now you see that it has triggered on the feature status branch, and this time it will go to this build and deploy feature step, and it will actually create me a completely different stack here in CloudFormation. So I can have a completely different infrastructure for my feature, so I can test it and see if everything is fine with my new feature. And let's wait a bit. You see it's already entered this build and deploy feature step. And if we look at the pipeline, GitHub workflows pipeline, let's see where it is. Build and deploy feature, you see that it monitors if any branch it's starting with feature, and then it will run these actions here that are in this pipeline file. And this should not take too long. Let's refresh here in CloudFormation. It's not yet started creating the stack. And it has actually failed. Let's see why it failed. If we look at it, it says not authorized to perform STS assume role with web identity. And I think I know why. If we go back to IAM and look at the roles, it has created for us a role, and we should look at, and let's just refresh, and it should be the dev pipeline execution role, this one. If we look at the trust relationship, it says that only in the case that the branch is main, this should be accepted. So let's edit this trust policy here manually this time, and here I'm going to change the main with a star, so not only the main branch is accepted, but any branch from this repository. So let's update this one, and now we can go back here and go to this and let's rerun all jobs, and this time it should work. Let's wait for that. So this time it was successful. Let's just look at also the CloudFormation stack. You see feature status, a new stack with a completely different set of resources was created. We have another REST API here. If we look at it, you can see here again. Let's grab the URL and open it, add hello after that, and this time it's the status successful. Okay, now let's suppose we tested and this is fine. What we want to do is create a pull request. So let's create a new pull request, and this will be the feature status. Let's create the pull request, and we are going to merge this from the feature status branch to the main branch. Merge pull request, confirm merge, and it's now being merged. And what will happen here is a deployment will start on the main branch, and this will deploy it from the dev stage. Then it would run the tests and deploy it to the prod stage finally. And this is going to run. We're not going to wait for it. What I still want to do, I want to come here and execute this step, delete feature. So I want to delete the feature branch, and then my feature stack here, this feature status stack, will be also deleted. So how do I do that? It's pretty simple. Let me go to here and let's git branch d and feature status. Okay, yeah, git checkout main and then delete feature status. It's not fully merged. Actually, it's merged. Let's git pull origin main. Okay, and now we can delete this one, and also git push origin and delete feature status on the origin. Okay, and what would happen now if we look here? It will also run here the delete feature step, and this would delete my feature status branch, which I only use to develop this feature. So let's wait until these pipelines run, both of them, or the first one here is doing the merge and deploys it to production. The second one here will delete the feature branch we have created and the feature stack. So let's wait until they finish. Both of them finished now. If I look at my feature branch, this no longer should exist. Let's refresh. You see, no longer I have the feature branch here, the feature stack, sorry. And if I refresh this, here I should get status successful. This is my production endpoint. So this works. The delete feature was executed successfully and everything is fine. I still have my dev and prod stages, so everything seems to be fine. So this was the video for today. Hopefully it was useful and you have learned how to use SAM pipelines and GitHub Actions to deploy your serverless applications. If you like the video, click on the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you soon with another video.